get into it. Let's have some fun. Hi. How's everyone doing?
I hope everyone's good. I'd say happy Monday to you, but it'll be Wednesday for y'all when you're here.
Yeah. Okay. So I was about to say happy Monday, but I was like, oh, they're going to listen to it on Wednesday.
Well, it's happy Monday for us and happy hump day for y'all.
Hey, hump day. But how was your week?
It was good. I feel like it hasn't been that long since we talked last, so nothing really crazy happened. I actually had a good weekend. I decided that I wasn't going to be a workaholic this weekend. And yesterday, I'm off on Sunday, Monday. So yesterday I went out to brunch. We have on the beach that I live on, we have a restaurant that's on the pier that's really good. And I haven't sat at the outside bar once yet all summer. So I decided to take myself to brunch, take myself on a date, whatever. So I had brunch by myself. The bartender was really cool. I met this lovely old couple that just moved down here around when I did talk to them for 30 minutes. But I also brought a book. I'm that girl that goes to the bar and reads. It's kind of...
What book? What book are you reading?
So last week I told you guys I finished Colleen Hoover, It Ends With Us, which was really good. And I do want to read more of her books, or at least from what I'm gathering, a lot of her books are love stories. And I'm not in my love. Yeah, I'm not in my love book era.
But with a twist, Verity, it was more of a psychological thriller.
I do want to check out some of those because I love murder mystery or what were all the shows, Snapped and all those crazy shows
growing up. 48, yep.
Yeah, so I'm definitely into that. So I want to check out some of her other books, but I have been recently very infatuated with New York City and New York lifestyle. I'm still dabbling in fiction books because I've read so many self-help books this year that I'm
same.
But Steve Martin, if you guys don't know who he is, that's kind of crazy. But if you watch Only Murders in the Building on Hulu, which is such a good show, you need to watch it. Very satire, funny, but really good. Selena Gomez is in it. Steve Martin, I can never remember the other actor's name, but Steve Martin's in it, and he's actually an author. And so last weekend, I went to a local bookstore because I've been trying to find a new local bookstore to support in my area. And I kind of just I honestly have manifested this book. I walked in and I was I want a fiction book about a girl living in New York City. But I had no idea what I was looking for. And I found Steve Martin's book on sale, hardback, very nice book for $14. And it's so good. It's about this girl that's living in New York, and she's I'm an art kid, and she's into the art world. She essentially works at galleries, and it's starts from her moving there and having no money to working her way up in the art industry. But the thing that I love about the book is that while it's a really good fiction story, I think technically it's based off of a true person that Steve Martin knew, but because he obviously didn't live his day-to-day life with this girl, it's still considered fiction because a lot of the story he's had to kind of create himself for the actual scenarios, how they played out when she was at work and stuff like that. But the thing I love about it is all of the facts that they're talking about, all of the artists that they're talking about, they actually have pictures of the art too, are actually real facts about art. They're real paintings. And so I don't know, it's just really cool. I think it's a good way to read fiction and with
a nonfiction twist. Yeah.
But something that I'm really interested in, because I don't know, I've just realized I've really gotten back into reading this year, which I was always kind of a big reader, but I didn't read that much last year. But I find, especially because I'm such a talkative person, and the older I get, the more you read, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, it kind of helps. It just makes your opinions expand wider, your knowledge. It's just a great way to keep learning when you're not necessarily in school.
Helps build your vocabulary too.
Yeah. So I got lost in a book for a while. It was amazing because I could literally see the whole ocean. It was perfect weather. We're finally starting to get out of the humid time down here, and we're anywhere between 82 to 86. And then under the covered pier, it's the
okay. Don't rub it in because it is 90s in Charlotte. It is hot as hell. So
yeah, it started to cool down. We're in hurricane season, so it's getting a little bit cooler. We're getting a little bit more wind. But did that, and I've also been making a conscious effort to start reaching out to a lot of the people that I've kind of befriended when I first moved here, because I haven't really seen a lot of them and spent a lot of one-on-one time with them. So I spent some one-on-one time with a newer friend yesterday. We just went and got food and then went and hung out at their house for a bit, and it was actually really good. Good to be fostering connections. Did I stay up way too late, or should I say too early into the morning? So pretty much slept all day
Oh
and
my
watched
gosh,
Twilight.
you gotta live. You have to
Yeah.
live.
So today's been pretty chill. I've literally laid on my couch and fallen in and out of naps, and I'm a Twilight girly, so they have the extended like extra clips on Amazon right now for free. So I'm on my Twilight journey for like a million times.
Wait, I remember reading those books in high school, and
Are you Team Edward or Team Jacob?
I am Team Jacob.
Ugh. Unpopular opinion. I am Team Edward.
I
I
am
feel like,
Team Jacob only because I think Jacob is more attractive. That's the only reason
that's
why.
everyone. I mean, the body, all of it. But like, I don't know. I've always been a Robert Pattinson fan. Really cool fun fact. I guess they're not technically my grandparents anymore, but my dad's ex-wife, her mom worked at the school that they shot Twilight at.
Huh. Okay.
And it's in Colowee, Washington, and we lived in Washington for a summer. And so I got to meet them, and they, wanting to be like great grandparents to their new granddaughter. And my dad told them how much I love Twilight. So you can go to Colowee, Washington, where I know the book takes place in Forks, but they actually shot the movie in Colowee. I think that's what it's called.
I hiked that waterfall that's in the movie.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. It's not Colowee. It's Kalama is the name of the town in Washington where they actually shot the movie. And so, again, my grandmother is a secretary. Well, my old grandmother, I don't know, whatever, is a secretary at that school. So you can go during certain times of the year to the general public and pay to, like, get a tour, because they did completely renovate the gym for that movie, and then took it all out when they were done, but they had to put back a new gym. Like the mural that you see them walk by every time they go out to the woods, that was actually something that was already there that the students had painted. So like you can walk around and see all of that. But I actually got a special tour that's not open to the public, because there was certain like classrooms and hidden rooms that they built things in. Like, for example, the greenhouse when they went on the field trip, that was like, they still have it and it was built, but it's kind of in a secret area and they don't want to necessarily let people into all areas of the school. But I've got to see all those places because my grandmother worked there. So we didn't like pay or anything. Like she took me on a random like weekend day off and like gave me the private tour. So, and can I just say this breaks my heart, which I know she's gone through a lot and I still love her. But she told me that Kristen Stewart's a bitch.
I'm not surprised. Like, a lot of these people are bitches and assholes.
And she said that at first she was team Edward, and she didn't say Robert Pattinson was rude. She just said he was kind of quiet, more reserved. But she's team Jacob. But because she said he's the sweetest person ever. But I guess Kristen Stewart at the time was the only person on set that was still in high school. So
wait, she was in high school when
she was.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was still in high school when she shot the first movie. And if you're a child actor, you do still have to do schooling during filming. Like there's a certain amount of hours a day she had to do school. And they gave her I saw the room. They gave her a whole private room with a private tutor, like teacher, in the library for her to do
classwork.
Which was, again, like a kid's bedroom could be in there. And she threw a huge fit because she wanted a whole classroom. But my grandma, and I think this is specifically why my grandma didn't like her, because she was mean to my grandma. My grandma told her no. She shut that down because the filming
it's just her. Why would she need a whole classroom?
And the other thing is they actually didn't close down. I agree with that. So I understand why my grandma said no. But they shot the movie during the school year, and the school still had to stay open because it's a small town. So there's not they can't just send all these students away because someone's paying them money to film a movie there. So much of the school was already overtaken by the film set. Like I said, they took over their whole gym and built the school's gym in it. For not that many scenes. Like there wasn't that many scenes in the gym. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so when she wanted a whole classroom, my grandma was like, no, but apparently she, true 18-year-old child actor fashion through it. So I'm hoping she's, because I do love her. I really do. And her transformation of who she is, I love. But, you know, hoping she's a better person because my grandma said she wasn't a fan.
Well, I had an eventful weekend. So I've been doing a lot of running, and I can't wait to have a weekend where I don't have to do anything. But
Yeah.
it was my friend's baby shower this weekend, so we went to that. Uh, it's awesome, like my friend
Yeah.
group having kids, and it was so beautiful. Kane wasn't the only little baby there, so he was having fun with all the other babies. Also, side note, I'm really shiny because I just got done working out, so ignore my
So
forehead.
you're fine.
It's glaring. But yeah, we went to that and it was absolutely wonderful. Um, and then we had a 4-year-old birthday party on Sunday at the park. And that's always a dangerous place because my kid is obsessed with the park. He will run across everything, and they had a splash pad. So, we weren't leaving till hours later because he had to go
Yeah.
to the splash pad. But he's growing his back teeth finally. So I'm so excited. He's grown up on me. And he knows his nose. My
Oh,
son knows his nose.
I don't even know if I would say motor skills, but like
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness. That's so
Yep. Well,
awesome.
because when he starts talking, he's not in daycare or preschool or anything right now. His grandpa keeps him throughout the day when we're working. I don't want him to go to school until he can talk and tell me what
What's
happens. Like,
happening?
yes,
Yeah.
I need to know what's going on. You need to do a full report because if someone tries to touch you, I need to know.
It
So,
sounds terrible, but like I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna be a helicopter mother because like I want my kids to have freedom because I didn't have a lot of freedom growing up. But in this day and climate, my kids are definitely not going to daycare until, to be honest with you, if someone looks at me and tells me they want to put a baby in me, I have to not be able to work for the next 5 years. And I don't want to not work once I have kids, but I want to stay home with my kids. And
I
you also
wanted
have
to
to
be
be,
that way too, but I'm the breadwinner. I told Kev, like, if we have another kid, I'm not working. Point blank, period. I'm not
okay,
working.
breadwinner. Yeah, no, I don't want to work the first 4 to 5 years that I have. I really only want to have one kid. So when I have my first kid, maybe two.
Mhm.
But I know this is so crazy, but just with all of the shootings and the lack
Facts.
of
Facts.
laws on gun control, I don't want to homeschool my children, but I want to make sure that me and my partner have enough money to pay for a homeschool teacher. I'm still gonna let my kids like do sports
There's,
because if you're homeschooled, you can do sports in your area at those schools.
yep.
But I think that I'm definitely
That is a
flying.
really big consideration that we're taking in. And not only just me, but like a lot of people that I know now that have kids, homeschooling is looking very appealing. And I was so against it because I'm like, no, because he's going to be weird. He's going to be socially awkward. But looking more into it, they have homeschooling groups where, because you don't have to do homeschooling all day. So, like, you could do like an hour here, an hour there, and then go on a trip somewhere. And with the
Yeah.
group,
And I actually had friends that were homeschooled, but or at least I don't know other states, but in North Carolina, um, if you're homeschooled, wherever your like home, like your school would be, if you were go to public school, you are allowed. Those schools can't prevent you from trying out for sports teams, participating in clubs and stuff, which I feel like allows my child to still have the opportunity to my
Be
child literally
social.
doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it gives them the opportunity to still be social, make friends, be around other kids. But like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and honestly, I never really thought about it until my niece and my nephew, they both just started. My niece did homeschool for kindergarten, not because her parents were necessarily scared to send her to school. They didn't want her to have to go to school with a mask on and all of that during COVID.
Yeah.
They just wanted her to be able to go and like be a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So she started first grade today, and she's going to
Oh.
public school. And my nephew starts on Wednesday because he's in kindergarten. You know, I guess they stagger it the first
Yeah.
week. And he starts Wednesday. And at the same time, where I've been super excited, like I love all the pictures, and like I've been talking to them for the last 2 weeks about it. I'm not gonna lie, like in the back of my head as their aunt, it actually terrifies me. Of
Mm-hmm.
like, and I like asked my brother about that, and he was like, "Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, it's all risks that you're taking." But
Mm-hmm.
they're pregnant with one. They still have a 4-year-old at the house. So it's already been a lot during COVID, and they both work from home to have 2 children and know that they have a newborn on the way. So it was kind of like they need to get
Yeah.
her into school. So
Yeah. But if you ever have kids, you'll realize that you'll start to see danger everywhere else where you never really paid attention where
mhm.
there's danger. Because even at home, I'm just like, I need to go check if he's still breathing, which is wild
Yeah,
because he's 1.5 now. Like, I'll wake up like 5 times in the middle of the night just to make sure he's still breathing, even though he's
I tell
fine.
you, that's why I want one. Like I was even talking to my mom the other day and telling her that I was going to go to brunch by myself and bring my book, and she's like, "I wish I could do that." And I was like, "Well, you know, you don't have kids, and like it's just you. Like you could. I don't have kids. I don't have a significant other. Like I can literally do whatever I want, pretty
Mm-hmm.
much any day of the week." Um, but yeah, she was talking about how she feels like she lost her identity a lot in being a mom. And so like when I think about that, I think about that like danger, like because I'm like my kid's not gonna, which I don't think there's anything wrong with this, but like I'm too scared to let my baby sleep in the bed with me, and I don't even have one.
I was like that until I did it.
Yeah,
Now.
I feel like that's what every mom tells me, but I'm like I definitely would want to do it once, for sure, because I want to have that experience. I want to know what that kind of love is like. But that's
Oh,
what I'm like the
that love
biggest.
is the
Yeah, I see
absolute
what I
best
have for my
love.
nieces and my nephews, and I can like only imagine.
It's
I
greater
already
with
didn't know
your
my
own.
heart could expand that much, yeah, with my nieces and
Hmm.
my nephews. So I can only imagine like my own. But like the thought of like doing it multiple times, I'm like, I'm good on that.
I don't know how people do it multiple times because this shit is horrible. Being pregnant is horrible. It's not beautiful like media makes it seem like. It's horrific.
Yeah, yeah.
It,
So I'm good. One time, and like I don't know. That's like kind of. I literally this weekend I started writing down a list of non-negotiables, for when I start dating again, like things that like I will not buck on.
you want
Like
to know what my list was for
what?
starting out? So this is very like fresh when I started dating someone. My minimum requirements for like the first time. I mean, my requirements built over time, but first time coming over to their space, it has to be clean. Cause I feel like if you invite me to your space and it's dirty the first time I come over, you do not respect me. Like,
Yeah, no,
how are
absolutely.
you gonna let me come over and your place is looking like shit? That means you don't care what your space looks like. You don't care about your cleanliness and how you present yourself. Therefore, what do you think about me? You think I'm going to be okay with this? No. Secondly, uh, your mattress cannot be on the floor. You have to have a bed frame with a headboard,
That's fair.
and you have to have books, some kind of books in your house. You have
Yeah.
to read, so I know you can articulate and
I
make
haven't
conversation.
That's important. I haven't 100%. You know, the crazy thing is, again, what really made me want to do this is I've been thinking about doing it. And like I said, I hung out with a friend yesterday, and we were just talking, and this person's significantly older than me. I mean, they're 39, about to be 40. I'm only 26. So it's always nice to have older friends. I have a lot of older friends, and I like it because one, they respect me and they don't try me, but because they've just been in life, they didn't too much for the most part. But two, I feel like they can give me a lot of insight into things that I haven't, or I wouldn't say I haven't experienced, but like kind of how to like go into that moving forward as I'm getting older and like be smarter in the decisions I'm making. And they asked me yesterday, like, well, like, what is your list of non-negotiables? And I was like, I don't know. But it's because I do want to really sit down and think about it. But I will tell you this much: whoever I marry, because I would like to not have a child until I'm married to that person. Ideally, I know things happen, but that's the goal. But like, I promise you, going into that relationship, I 100% want them to know that the only amount of kid, if I'm able to have a kid, that I can promise you is one. I may be open to the, two after I've had the first one and I see how that goes. But I want you to also be okay with the fact that it might be one and done. And like, a lot of people tell me I'm crazy for that because I grew up in a big family and they're like, oh, you don't want your kids to have siblings. But I'm like, I have so many brothers and sisters.
Okay. So here's the thing. I feel like that saying right there is super fucking toxic and it gets on my fucking nerves. You want to know why? Because you can't tell, like, shit is just so annoying. You can't tell someone you need to have another baby. You don't know what that person experienced through pregnancy. Pregnancy is very hard on the body. It's not like you jumping up and down doing jumping jacks and shit. No, it's hard as hell.
And it scares the shit out of me, like even thinking about it.
It's mentally taxing too. So if a woman is like, I am one and done, I wish people would respect it.
Yeah.
I really wish people would respect it when someone says one and done, because then when you're like, well, no, because I get it all the time. Your son needs someone to play with. Yeah, he has me. And he's going to make some friends.
And my kid, I have 14 brothers and sisters. And 4 of my siblings have already had, every single one of them have more than one kid. Like, my child is going to have a full life. They will have friends to play with. Like, yeah, so I'm not really concerned about that. But I do know, as I'm working on my list of non-negotiables, I know that that's a big one for me is you have to be okay. Yeah, that's what taking care of myself is expensive. And then you got to add a baby and then another one and then college. No, I'm good. But yeah, no, I think that's definitely number one on my list of non-negotiables, and then some of my friends also tell me I'm crazy because I'm thinking about that. I'm like, girl, you're going on the first date. But I heard this on a different podcast that I listened to because she'd been single for 7 to 9 years. I can't remember. She's in her 30s and she's finally started dating someone, and which is amazing. It's going really great for her. But she did a solo episode for the first time because her co-host wasn't there. And everyone wanted to know how to date. How do you try to find the right person? And this is the piece of advice that I took the most from it that I'm really going to keep. And not necessarily say I'm dating right now, but it's good to start thinking about these things. Mm-hmm. She said that between the first 3 to 5 dates, you need to write down your list of non-negotiables. Every time you go on a date with that person, look over that again, keep it in the back of your mind. She's like, if you need to keep it in a note on your phone. And if that person in that first 3 to 5 dates does not meet that list 100%, you need to move on. And the reason why she said you really need to do that is because this is such a good point. And I think about this in my last relationship, the relationship before that. So my last relationship, not my last relationship, but the one before that, I lived with this guy. The guy I dated this guy for years. This was fresh out of high school. And we lived together for a really long time. And when we broke up and going through that whole process of, when you go back and forth and him coming back to live with me and then living with me and coming back and live with me, I remember my number one non-negotiable going into my next relationship was that I would not live with another boyfriend at least until I had an engagement ring. If you put an engagement ring on my finger, okay, we can live together. But when I tell you, when you start dating someone and you immediately get lost in those feelings, you immediately put on those rose-colored glasses, which is what she said. And I was like, that's so true. And things that you tell yourself are a non-negotiable, you start to sweep under the rug because you're wearing those rose-colored glasses. And sure enough, my last relationship, we moved in with each other really quickly. And again, not saying that I necessarily regret anything, but there were so many times, like even during that relationship and after that, I was like, I realized I had not grown as much as a person as I wanted to, because it was like, that was your number one. And that went out the window immediately. So I really want to adopt that. I also think we have a really bad issue in our society where you start texting people all the time and FaceTiming them, so you feel like you really know them before you've actually dated them. And then people start having sex with people before they've actually like gotten to know if they really like this person. And then when you add that piece in there, you even get more lost in the sauce. So I think my big thing is you got to take me out at least 5 times before anything. And I'm not even talking about sex. I'm just talking about like really anything. And if you don't hit all those things on my list before that, like, no, because when I love hard and I'm fully invested. So
And
I want to make
I like that piece of advice too, because you're also setting up your boundaries as well,
yeah,
of what you'll tolerate and what you don't tolerate. Because that is a good point. Like those what you call them, rose-colored glasses
yeah,
is real. Because I've had situations where, like, the D was just too good. I ignored everything. So
yeah. I mean, I even think about my most recent past relationship, and we didn't necessarily have like a big blowout. Like nothing crazy happened. No one was like cheating on each other. We weren't like screaming at each other all the time. It's not why we broke up. We had our other reasons. But at the same time, like, it's hard. One, it's hard to move on from people.
Mhm.
And something that I've been really thinking about lately, even when I hear my other friends talking about stuff going on in their relationships, I think about if my friend was telling me what was happening to her and it was my exact situation, what would I tell her? You know what I mean? And it's like, but those rose-colored glasses. So it's like
Mhm.
you keep going back, you keep going back. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think
but
I would
also
like,
too, you're like, when it comes to certain situations, yeah, you might tell your friend this, but whatever, is it just me in here?
no, it's us.
Oh, but whatever next step is going on in your relationship, it'll only happen when you're ready.
Yeah.
Or say for instance, like it's just a toxic relationship. You're not going to leave until you're ready.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's why I think like any friends I ever had that like, and I understood that they were coming from a supportive place of like trying, they cared about me and they loved me. But I've had some friends that have been like, okay, I know that like she cries about this every week and I know we're her friends, but like, first of all, we're her friends. We're supposed to be here for her. And then two, on top of that, like anytime I've had a friend that's been like trying to like be angry with me and be like, you need to leave this person, blah, blah, blah. It never worked. If anything, I ran back even more because when we're not supposed to be doing something, it's human nature
To go back.
for us to
Hmm.
be more attracted to that. So like the more you try to force me to get away from that, honestly, it kind of made me want to go back to it even more, which isn't good. So
Hmm.
I think with my friends, I've always tried to, just because I know how it's felt in that situation, if they're going through something and a person's toxic, I'm going to be honest with them. I'm going to tell them, I think you deserve to be treated better, or, I mean, like my best friend had done this with a million times. Like, okay, JoJo, I understand this. And we can have this conversation every week. Like I'm saying this from a place of not of me judging you or trying to get at you. But one, people are only going to treat you the way that you allow them to treat you.
Hmm.
So first
Hmm.
of all, this person, I know to you it feels crazy that they're doing this to you because you love them and you're like, why would someone who loves me do that? But you also keep going back when they do that. So like
Hmm. Yeah.
you
So
accept
I was
it.
that girl right before the relationship I'm in now. Like Kev is like heaven sent in comparison, and it's so funny because I was so like blinded with those like whatever love goggles or whatever. Oh, I
Yeah.
got water on my shirt. Or I think I was. We're all adults. I feel like I was stigmatized just because it was. We weren't even together. It was more of like a situationship, and it was really toxic. And I decided to ignore the red flags despite what my best friend was saying. She was like, no, don't leave him just because. Okay, so he was, um, he ended up, so he told me about one child that he had, but lied about his other children to me and said that they were his like godchildren, and ended up at the end of it had 3 baby moms, 4 kids. And I didn't even find out from him. I found out through social media. And I'm like, hey, yo, if you would have been up front, we could have done something. But since you didn't, now I gotta go. That was my limit. I mean, there's other things that transpired within that time frame. It lasted for about a year and some change. And I wish, now that I look back on it, I wish I could have given myself that advice and like listen to myself. But at the same time, at that point in my life, I didn't understand my worth. And therefore, I allowed so much stuff to happen until I finally ended it. He wasn't going to end it. I finally ended it. Not directly. I started being a major bitch to him to make him end it with me so I can be free. But I didn't value myself in that relationship. And I would say that's the biggest thing. Like, as you're single, like, I wish I had been single for a longer point of time to really understand my worth and my value, understand my self-confidence and myself, so I can move confidently in relationships. Because when I took that time and met Kev, I would have married Kev.
Yeah, see, listen, I understand that because that's how I feel. Like a lot of my friends recently have been like trying to push me like, oh, maybe you should go out and date. Like you should see other people. And I get it. Like it's important to be social, see what's out there. And like you don't have to. I feel like a lot of times as women, I don't know about men. I can't speak for men because I'm only a woman. But I feel like a lot of times as women, it's hard for us because like you go on that first date and we immediately, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I don't think it is. But like you start already automatically putting yourself like,
and there's like script in this.
yeah, you start like trying to play out your lives together and see like what would it be like when it's like, I understand what my friends are saying. It's like just because you go on a date with someone doesn't mean that you have to go on another date with them or that you know what I mean? Like just go have fun, get free dinner, which don't get me wrong, free dinner is nice, but I am also at a point where I've been in 2 pretty serious relationships outside of like high school. And I would definitely say that in each relationship that I was in, there was a point in that relationship where I thought that that person was going to be the person that I spent the rest of my life with. Like I thought that was it. So if I'm being real with you, I think there's this one girl on TikTok who basically she bases content around like how she makes sure to have a date planned every week of the night. So she never has to pay for her dinner, which like, don't get me wrong. That's a great, good for you. Go do you, I don't care.
If that's how you're getting it.
And if that's what she wants, then I think that's fine. But for me personally, because my friends think it's crazy, because like I've definitely had people, I mean, even just like gone out to the bars with my friends and had men come up to me and be like, oh, I want to take you to dinner and blah, blah. But it's like, let's be honest. First of all, within about the first 10 minutes of talking to someone, you can kind of get a good idea. Yeah, if you would actually go out with them or not. So where a lot of my friends are like, girl, you better get that free dinner. He's talking about taking you to a steakhouse or something. I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to date someone for 4 years again to end up heartbroken where I've been at for the last, 9 months. Like, I don't want to do this again. And I also understand that in dating, like that's a risk that you take. There's always a chance that things can happen and your heart could be broken. But I also think that I was not very intentional into going into my last relationships. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I will say my last relationship was beautiful. The one before that, I hate that person now. I want nothing to do with them. But But like, there's a lot of things that I see in myself now being out of that relationship where I'm like, no, this is where you need to grow as a person. Or like, and then I think about it, I wasn't looking for a relationship the last time I got in a relationship, but it just happened. And that happens sometimes. Sometimes you meet someone and you fall for them, and that's how life works. But at this point in my life, when I really start seriously dating again, I would love for this person to hopefully be my forever person. So, but with that, and I think that's the thing that people don't realize too is like, and this is why I've been so focused on taking care of myself and like taking care of my mental health. And I mean, little things like making sure my space is clean when I'm home alone, and making sure that my finances are in order, and making sure that I have a good schedule and routine for myself so that when I do meet a person, I'm not relying on them to entertain me all of the time, because at the end of the day, you attract the energy that you put out. So my last relationship was far better than the one before that. But we both still have a lot of growing to do as people. And in a lot of ways, there was, I remember the first like year and a half, I was like, holy fuck, I've never been in a relationship this healthy. Like, what the fuck is going on? I was like kind of losing my mind. But in a sense, like we were still two broken people, and not all the way, but we were still two broken people. So there was a lot of reasons why that didn't work. Right. And then like the crazy part is I get out of it now, and my mom is going through a really tough situation, and her situation is affecting me a lot. And I realize how much childhood trauma that I'm holding on to. So like a really bad false subconscious belief that I have, and I have definitely felt this every time, not even just my 2 serious relationships out of high school. I remember my like first puppy love in high school, my first like real long-term relationship. Every single relationship I've gotten out of, for the most part, typically, because again, I'm a lover and I love hard. So for the most part, every time that I've gotten out of a relationship I was broken up with, I didn't necessarily break up with that person. I think I broke up with a couple people, but that was young high school. I was in love with those people. But every single time I came out of those relationships, because I don't want to say I'm a perfect partner. No one's perfect, but I am a good partner. And I believe that about myself. Like I'm loyal. I'm understanding. I feel like so many girls say this, but like, I'm not crazy. Like, I'm really not. Like, for me personally, like, dude, literally, I'm telling you, like, if I have to get in my car and leave my house in the middle of the night and bang on your door and come and search your house, like, no.
Oh, I'm leaving at that point.
Yeah,
If
no,
I feel
I'm not
the
doing
need
that.
to have to do that, I'm leaving at that point.
I feel like if I have the need to feel like I need to go through your phone,
I'm done.
that's the immediate problem right there. But I've realized a lot lately that like every relationship I've gone out of, I've always felt like, why am I not enough? You're not enough. Like, why? I'm never enough. Like, I'm such a good partner. Half the time, the thing that always blew my mind too is that like these people would break up with me and they'd be like, you're perfect. I love you. And I'm like, well, I don't get it. Like, that's still not enough.
It's
Like, you
because
still
of
don't want to
them.
be with me.
It's because
Yeah.
of them. So
I realized that, but I also realized that my stepdad, I don't know, I don't want to go too deep into it today, but just to give you an idea of like the level of strict I grew up in, I could cook dinner, clean the house top to bottom, sweep the floors, everything like I was supposed to every night, which I did because I was scared of him. And he would come home and there would be one tiny crumb on the floor that, dear God, I missed one crumb, but the whole kitchen is spotless. And I get punished. I get grounded. And he would argue with you for 30, 40 minutes and be like, you guys didn't clean the kitchen. And we would literally be like, we did though. We did. Like we did. And so I think and that wasn't the only situation that happened. And there was all of that in life growing up. I think that has really distilled a subconscious belief in me that no matter how good I am, no matter how hard I tried for my parents, because like I'm telling you, I'm an emotional person. Like, Rachel, you could do something that I know that you did. Like I could be standing next to you and you did something fucked up to someone, and I know that it's gonna conspire poorly, like right then and there. And like you'll be like, I don't care. And I'll be crying and I'll be like, no, I don't want you to get in trouble. I don't want this to happen to you. Like, that's the kind of person I am. Like, when my sister, I think for her, she understood that, like, no matter what we do, we're just always going to get in trouble. Like, it doesn't, so for her, it was almost like, why am I going to keep trying so hard? Because no matter how hard I try, they're still not going to be happy. So, like, I remember she would just do whatever she wants, and I would hate that, because if one of us got in trouble, we all got in trouble. It was no such thing. Like, we were all in it together. But I used to hate that because, and I always tell her now, like, I wish I would have been more like her in that sense. But I used to hate that as a kid, because, like, she wouldn't even care that we're getting in trouble. And here I am crying for something I didn't even do.
So here's the thing. When it comes to dating, I also feel like we take dating too serious. Like, dating is supposed to be fun. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like, that's the get to know you stage. That's the fun stage, the honeymoon stage where you're supposed to go out, and dating is not exclusive to one person. So you can go on dates with multiple people. Hell, however, you can go on dates with 50 people. It doesn't matter. I feel like Lori Harvey is the master at dating. And, you're testing out the waters to see, what really meshes with what you're looking for. And if it doesn't serve you, move on. It's time to move on for the next one. And I feel like that's where a lot of us these days start to get things confused, where we're taking things too seriously in the dating phase. But it's not until you decide to be exclusive with someone it's not until you get exclusive with someone. Dang, what am I trying to say? Until you get exclusives when you really have to, put in that work.
And take it serious.
Yeah. Yes. I feel like we're treating dating as if we're in an exclusive relationship when it's backwards.
Well, do you think, you know what I think is also a big issue with our society, which I realize this, which this was something that we did in our last relationship pre-COVID, which I love that we did. But I feel like a lot of people don't do. So my most recent ex, we met each other years before we ever dated at work. And then he had left that job. I was in a relationship at the time, so we never talked. We were just coworkers then. And then a couple years later, when I was single, he was single. We ran into each other a couple of times around the city until eventually we started hanging out. So, one, I think about this, and when we actually got together, we made a point every Tuesday night. I remember we used to do movie nights and dinner every Tuesday night, and like we intentionally went on dates, which I think is really important, because I think something that I do realize in this day and age, in this era, because we have so much social media, because we have cell phones. Mm-hmm. Yeah, think about it, because it's like, I don't know. I mean, I truly say this, and I just have never felt the desire to. I still don't now. I'm very like meet people organically kind of thing, but we have dating apps, we have social media.
People don't really meet organically anymore.
Yeah, and then on top of that, like I really like this, and I think this is something from my last relationship that I want to keep like moving forward. Me and my previous partner, we did not text all day every day.
I don't text Kev all day every day.
No, because literally, if I'm talking to you, giving you my play-by-play all day, what are we going to talk about when I get home?
No, and that's space is so key. Like, even though Kev and I live together and have a kid, I still live my life separately from both of them, from our son and him, because I still need to be an individual myself. And I love the fact that Kev gives me the space to do that. Like, he's like, oh, like, Kev, my friend wants me to go out. He's like, okay, bye. What are you still doing here? Why are you contemplating if you want to go or not? We'll be here. Bye.
Yeah. So, like, for example, I love that, though, because it's important. It's good to be able to, like, obviously you want your friends and your partner to get along and be able to hang out together. But I do think it's important too to have separate lives too. Like you should be able to go out with your girlfriends and have a
Mm-hmm.
girls' night, and he should be able to go out with his friends and have a guys' night or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. But yeah, no, I think the other issue too is like, for example, so I shortly before I moved, um, I did have someone hit me up and I did go on a date. And someone took me to the Hornets game. And one thing that I will say that I really liked about this was we had exchanged numbers a couple weeks ago when we ran into each other, but we had actually met each other a couple times just out at friends' house at after parties. And then we ran into each other, finally exchanged numbers, and he randomly hit me up like on a Saturday night out and was like, hey, I got some free tickets to a Hornets game. Do you want to go? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing that I really liked is we did not talk again until the day before, because he obviously wanted to make sure that I was still down to go and iron out plans. He didn't want me to have to drive, he wanted to do it the right way. He didn't want me to have to drive there and all of that. So, but I liked that there was no conversation really in between that and the first date, because we actually had a really good date. I will say I never went on a date with him again because I moved. And I remember I was literally thinking that the whole time when I was on the date. I was like, dang, this is going really well. But also, like, when do you go on a date with someone and tell them that you're moving out of the city in less than 2 months? But I really liked that. And it really gave me a good foundation of like what I would like dating to look like for me when I really am trying to find that person. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
you have to leave room to get to know each other and room for mystery. And I think that's the big issue with our society nowadays. And these kids don't even realize it. Like when I used to talk on the phones at work, I talked to a lot of older people because I worked in the morning. And they would always tell me, oh, I've been married to my wife. Every time you'd ask if they're married, I've been married for 47 years, 50 years. And I'd always tell them, wow, like you don't hear that nowadays. Because I think the divorce rate in America is like, at least, I think it's higher
50.
than 50% of marriage. Yeah, 50% of marriages end in divorce. And he made a really good point. An old guy said this to me one time. He made a good point. He was like, first of all, he was like, young people, when shit gets hard,
We'll
they
slave.
don't.
And we're in
Yeah, we don't.
cancel culture now. So as
Yeah,
soon as something doesn't go our way,
yeah. Which, like, don't
snap.
get me
Yeah.
wrong. If your relationship is toxic and it's not good, then like, yes,
Leave.
by all means, leave. But like, okay, is your partner struggling with depression because something going on in their life? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's work through this, right? But he was saying that one, he was like, kids don't ever want to work through it. But then he also made a really good point to me. He said, you know what else it is? When I was dating my wife, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have pagers. So in order for me to really get to know this person, I had to really make time and invest time in this person because they
Mm-hmm.
couldn't just call and talk on the phone. They couldn't just FaceTime.
Mm-hmm.
But he made a good point. He was like, but because and that's a mutual thing, right? Both of them have to align and make that time for each other. So he was like, because we spent so much time and that was time out of our daily lives to make an effort to get to know each other, it's so much more valuable to you. You're not just so willing to just let that go. And I was like, dang, that's a good point because I think about this. It's like you and someone break up. I feel like part of the reason like why I always spiral after me and someone break up because there's dating apps, there's social media. Like you can find 20 other girls
I
to
want to be the
talk
devil's
to.
advocate. I want to be the devil's advocate.
Go ahead.
Only because I met Kev on Hinge. Okay?
Yeah.
Kev and I met on Hinge. But he wanted to get to know me. I feel like that's the difference between a lot of guys now, because a lot of these guys, they have all these influencers where it's like, you got to get mad bitches, you got to have all these hoes, you got to have a roster,
Yeah.
da 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 da. And a lot of these guys, they don't really know what they want. But Kev knew from the moment we met, he knew he wanted me. He knew he liked me. So he was putting in that time to
Yeah.
get to know me. And we've had our ups and downs. Like we're not a perfect couple, but when it gets tough, he's all in. He's like breaking up. I mean, if that's what you want, that's fine if that's what you want, but we're gonna at least work it out.
Yeah,
and
no,
try to
that's so
figure it
funny.
out. Like, we're about to talk this out. Like, we're gonna have the kid go to the grandparents' house. We're gonna go on a date. We're gonna figure this out because I want you. And I feel like that's a huge difference between like a lot of people these days is people don't really know what they want. And I don't know if it's because of more access because of social media, but
I don't even want to say that it's necessarily only more access because of social media. I mean, I think it makes temptation easier because it's like, whereas like in the past when they didn't have phones and all of that, like you had to go out and like try to physically meet someone in order to meet
yeah.
someone. Whereas it's like now it's like, no, you can slide in people's DMs, you can get on Hinge or whatever. And I'm not against dating apps. Just personally for me, I've honestly, like, I've just never felt inclined to want to sign up for one.
Just to each his
But
own.
yeah, for sure.
In
Um,
Charlotte, for sure, because
I live in a small town in a college town, so I'm good on that. But the crazy thing is, like I think the other concept too that people don't understand is that I shouldn't have to beg you to want to be with me.
no,
Because first of
absolutely not.
all, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you are dating anyone because you need them, you need to break up with them because you
Point blank
have a lot
period.
of work to do with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I will definitely say in my last relationship, I didn't feel like I needed my partner, which is good. That was a level of growth for me because in the relationship before that, when we broke up, my whole world was crumbling. And because I felt like I needed this person. In actuality, that person was not doing anything for me. I didn't. It was like, what do you need from them? They're not doing anything for you. But also, like, you should never be dating someone because you need them. You
Mm-mm.
should only be dating them because you want
Want
them.
them
You want
or
to date them.
yep, it makes your uh and they benefit your life too. You don't want
Yeah.
someone who's going to be a soul sucker either.
Yeah.
Like,
It should be mutually beneficial.
mm-hmm.
But I feel like, again, not because I don't have that many guy friends that are like talking to me about their relationship problems. But I feel like with my female friends and myself and stuff like that, it's like, why do we find ourselves in these situations where I'm not literally saying we're begging, a guy to be with us, but like we're trying to do all these things to like make them want to stay with us when it's not working, and we're trying to make it work when they're not trying to make it work, and it's like, why wanting someone like that's a want.
And
If they want you, they
we
should just
also
want
got
to
to
be with you.
realize and understand and really like take it in when someone does not really like us. Because I like my situationship, I really liked him. Did he like me? Yeah, sure. But not in the way that I liked him. He liked me enough, to have fun, but not to take it to that level. So
Yeah.
I was trying to make him a boyfriend when that's not what he wanted from me. So I feel like that's where we clashed too.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's the thing is like we find ourselves trying to convince people to want to stay with us, and it's like if someone wanting to be with someone's not hard. I promise you, because I felt that way. Every person that I dated and I wanted to be with, even after we broke up, I think at my last relationship we had a lot of back and forth, on and off, on and off. And the one thing that I had to keep reminding this person when we would get back together and then we would decide to break up again, and he would ask me like, why do we keep doing this? I always made it clear to him, I've always known what I wanted in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's you that doesn't know what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll take my fault, and like I know that you're back and forth. So like I probably shouldn't keep saying yes when you tell me that you want me again. But like also don't make it seem crazy that I want to stay with you, because that's always what I wanted. I don't need you to beg me to want to, because I've always wanted to be with you. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's what, like we have to realize as women. It's like being in a relationship with someone is them willingly wanting to do that with you. If they don't want to do that with you, they don't have to, because you cannot force
Mm-hmm.
anyone to be in a relationship with you. So if you're having to beg someone to want to be with you, you don't need to be in that, sis. Get out. Take it from me. It sucks and it hurts and it's hard. Like, girl, I'm still not
Mm-hmm.
over it. But it'll get easier. I mean, that's part of love. It'll get easier. It teaches you more about what you do and don't want in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And, some days it hurts more than others. And then sometimes you go weeks and you're like, damn, I'm good. And then, like, sometimes you have a bad day and you feel shitty again. But that's just all part of the healing process. But like, we shouldn't be begging people to want to be with you.
Hmm. Never
And sis,
beg. And desperate. You don't want
and
to be
yeah,
desperate for
and
you.
sis, quit running around all your friends being like, I know he's coming back because he needs me. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, if you think that he needs you,
Oh no,
that's a
that's what he's got
problem.
his mama for.
Yeah, that's a problem. And you need to sit down with yourself and reevaluate. Do you want to be with someone who needs you to survive? Because that's not it. So
So I like what you said, and I applaud Kev for this because he's like, I, you know what? I'm always talking crap to him, but I am really just like hyping him up on the show right now. But he took 5 years off from dating and really did the self work. So
he's an angel.
he did the self work, didn't talk to anyone, really understood like what his values were, what he's looking for, worked on his own confidence so that way he coming out of it he knew his worth, he knew exactly what he wanted, he knew what type of person he wanted to align with, and it's just he is so confident and sure of himself within this relationship with him and I. He's like, what do I need anything else for?
Oh, that's
I've
beautiful.
done the
I love
work.
that.
And I just feel like that is such an important thing to go through. Okay. So don't judge me, but I also feel like that single phase that Kev went through is very important. But I also think the hoe phase is very important as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I will say, I think that's the other reason why my friends, when like they're like, you should date, and I'm like, I don't want to. Like, listen, when I got out of my first serious relationship, girl, I did it. I had it. I did it. It was great. I don't
To
judge myself
find out
for
what you
it.
like, to find out what you
Yeah.
like,
And it's okay to
get
be young and
get
have
all those
fun.
get those urges out of you so that way when you do go into what you found and that you know that you want, you're not you're not having that wandering eye. You're not wondering, is the grass really greener on the other side when actually the grass is greener where you water it? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
I
why I
love
say
that.
it's important.
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel like that's when I came out of my most recent relationship. My friends have been like, I still can't believe you like don't want to date yet. And I'm like, well, because I've done that. Like I've gone out, had fun, whatever. I was like, but that's not where I'm at anymore. Like I did that, I got that out. I was like, I feel like I'm kind of in the Kev single phase where it's like, and I will say this, like I've noticed this because, um, again, I don't do much. I don't have a ton of friends here. So I went on one date about a month ago. And because I have spent, and for me, it's only, I mean, truly, honestly, truly like being single, um, really it hasn't been that long, maybe 4 or 5 months, because my ex just moved out of state and we weren't together, but we were still dealing with each other a lot before he left. So I've really been single for 4 months, but I've been living down here alone by myself for about 9 months now. And I haven't really talked to anyone, dated anyone. I don't have anyone that I'm like texting all the time. Like I haven't, and not necessarily that there hasn't been people that I've tried, but I just haven't really wanted that. I've wanted to focus on myself. And I will say I went on a date for the first time like a month ago. And it was crazy because I realized how much more respect I had for myself. And I mean, the date was fine. The guy was cool. We had a great conversation. But I think about old me and I'd have been like, oh my God, like it was really cool. We talked the whole time and like that would have been enough. But there were certain things that he said and certain things I saw about his life that weren't necessarily bad. But like for me personally, I want to move out of North Carolina eventually. I'm not trying to
Hmm.
stay here forever. Like I'm young. I want to travel the world. I grew up in an army family, so I'm very comfortable with moving around. Like I don't think you need to stay in one state forever if you
Hmm.
don't want to. If you want to
Hmm.
settle, but like that's not where I'm at. I'm not ready to settle. And he was from New York and he actually moved down to North Carolina during the pandemic because his family had been down here for years and he's pretty settled here. And so that immediately, it's so crazy because me in the past, young me would have been like, oh, the conversation was great. He was cute. Like he paid for everything. Like, yeah, it's going to happen again. But I honestly haven't pursued that person again since then, and I haven't talked to them since then because I don't want to waste his time because I already know you want to stay here
Mm-hmm.
and I want to go. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
when I'm going to go, but I know that I want to go. So
That's
it's like,
important too, aligning
yeah,
what you want with the other person, because um, I think Kev, honestly, I think Kev helped ground me. And I know that's crazy to say. It's not because he put a baby in me 2 weeks after we met, which is a crazy story.
we have to dig deeper into that.
Okay, no, I'll tell you how we met. We met, of course, on Hinge, and this was at the start of the pandemic, and so we met. It was, I think it was like 2 weeks later, we decided to meet up, and because everything was closed, this was like when everything was on strict lockdown, like we had a curfew.
Yeah.
Um, I was like, we can go on a date, but you're not coming to my house. But lo and behold, he came to my house. I cooked him spaghetti, and I want to say 2 or 3 weeks later, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and it's crazy how fast everything went, because after that first time he came over, we were kind of like inseparable, but our values aligned, our future wants aligned, like everything pretty much aligned, and it was kind of just like effortless and organic. I met the family. He had talked to my mom over FaceTime because she's not local, and yeah, a month after we made it official, I found out I was pregnant.
He made it officially official. He said, "You ain't going nowhere, girl. You're mine."
Yes. And my lease was conveniently expiring. So I was like, you know what? We just might as well just move in together.
Yeah. But see, no, I think that's a beautiful thing because I think my mom told me that my grandparents were always married on my mom's side for their entire life. They died, they're buried next to each other. And I mean, from what I could tell, and even my mom tells me, they had a really good relationship. It was different. They slept in different bedrooms. So I know that's like kind of weird to some people, but I don't know. That's just how it was. But my mom told me that her dad used to always tell her that they got engaged after 2 weeks of dating.
Mhm.
But he told my mom he knew after the second date that he wanted to marry her. He knew. And 2 weeks,
You know
he
what's
waited two
funny?
weeks because he said he felt like 2 dates was too soon. So he waited 2 weeks, but they ended up staying together and staying together. But again, like I think with my grandparents, they balanced each other very well. They had the same goals for life and all of that. So I think it doesn't matter what your timeline is. Like me personally, it might be a little bit of a longer timeline. I don't know. Like when I get there, I'll get there.
And there's no timeline.
Yeah.
There's
But
no timeline on
I
this.
think to your point, what's most important, like some people might hear your and Kev's story and be like, what? That's crazy. But I think you're right. Like if all of your goals align, he checks all those things on your list and you check all those things on his list, then it works. Then go for it. You know what I mean?
I
And that's why I want to say that too. Because again, like
mean,
again, I love hard. So like, trust me, like it won't take me long to fall in love with you. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I think about my last relationship, and it's so crazy because I knew him and because I was in a very committed relationship when I first met him. I had no idea that he had a crush on me, and he was super respectful. He never like made it super apparent because he knew I was in a relationship. Um, but I remember how quickly I fell for him. And like to me, that was so crazy because it was like if someone would have told me even 6 months ago that I was going to date this guy, I would have been like, what the fuck? No, I'm not. Like, I'm probably never used that person again in my life. So it's like, no, I agree with you. That's why I really want to have that list of non-negotiables and really like give myself that 3 to 5 date rule of making sure they check all those things because I know the second I'm in it, I'm in it. And
Yeah.
so it's like I need and for me, especially the way I've grown up and just the kind of person I am, once those rose colored glasses come on for me, like I will tell you the way that I'm crazy. I'm not the kind of crazy girl that's calling you a million times, showing up at your house, trying to fight people. Like, that's just not me. That's not my personality. But I'm crazy in the regard that, like, there's things that my friends, when I tell them, they were like, girl, I would have left a year ago. I'm the kind of person, like, when I have those rose colored glasses on, I will sweep all your shit under the rug for you. Because I grew up watching my mom do that. So
Well,
that's my example of love.
maybe that's a area of opportunity for you while you're single to not do that.
Oh, 100%.
Because I definitely have, like, now that Kevin and I are in it, my non-negotiables, I mean, they have changed in every season. I mean, it's still the baseline ones of you
Yeah.
better respect me, like no hands on me, like those, that kind of stuff. But like non-negotiables now is any decisions you make that could affect the welfare of our family, you need to discuss with me,
Yeah,
because
100%.
that, my number one is our son. So if anything compromises that, or like being able to provide for him, and it's we didn't consult about it before, that's a non-negotiable for me. I'm out. Like,
But also, people need to understand, like, I know a lot of times I've had this issue in past relationships where um, my exes have been like so annoyed that something they did affected me so much. And it's like, listen, especially outside of family, friends and partners are people that we are choosing and wanting to be with, which means that when you start dating me, you are making a conscious decision, and you going into that need to understand that the things that happen to you and the decisions you make also affect my life. So
beautifully
if
said. Yep.
yeah, if you don't like that your decisions affect me, bye.
Yep.
Because that's not being in a relationship. Being in a relationship is understanding that your decisions in your life affects the person around you.
And
And then also,
communicating.
yeah, and then also, ladies, I want to say this too, and I heard this on another podcast, so I'm not going to take credit for it. But I was like, oh my God, yes. When your friends start asking you what's your type or like what are your standards, let's stop saying things like, he's funny, he's nice to me. No, no. If that is the bare minimum, and like if that's where the bar is being set, our standards are way too low.
Way
You really,
too low.
yeah. Of course they should be funny and make you laugh. Of course they should be nice to you. Of course they should help pay for things. Or like I remember when I first got out of my
That's a minimum expectation. We'll just say it like that.
yes, my friend. It's not even minimum expectation. It's just part of having a personality and being a person.
Yeah.
Like for example, I remember my first serious relationship out of high school. I almost married this dude. Oh my God, thank God I didn't. But I remember when I got out of that, I was like telling my friend Richard, who was a lot older than me, that the next guy I dated had to have his own car and he had to have his own place. And he was like, what? He was like, that shouldn't be a standard for dating. Like, that's part of being an adult and taking care of yourself.
That's part of dating.
So, and that really made me open my eyes up to being like, you're right. My standards are too low. When my standards of a good person is them being an adult and taking care of themselves, the bar is too low. No, like, for example, for me, I grew
I've got
up.
a story for you after this.
Yes, I grew up in an emotionally and mentally abusive household.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have a lot of positive affirmations. My mom gave us lots of positive affirmations, but I didn't get a lot of positive affirmations in a male form. So something that's just real for me, and I've really learned this, is that when I'm in a relationship with someone, I know that they love me, but like I need to hear it. I need you to tell me that. And some people might be like, that's dumb. I love you. No, for me, I need you to tell me that you love me. I'm not saying you have to tell me 20 times a day, but like that's important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's starting to think about things like that when you start having standards for a person. Like maybe you don't need your boyfriend to tell you you're beautiful every day but you feel it all the time, every time. You don't need his validation, and that's fine. But maybe you need those positive affirmations or maybe gift giving is important to you. Like it's really understanding what you need, and that needs to be your standard. And so Ladies, stop telling yourself, I hope he's funny. He has a nice, he has a car and apartment. Um, he's clean, which I still think those need to be things on the list, but those should be, like you said, bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's okay. What else do you need on top of that?
So let me tell you this like horror story of a date that I went on. So we actually met in high school. He had transferred, I want to say like my sophomore, junior year. And all the girls were gawking over him. Oh my gosh, he's so fine. He's so handsome. I want him. And what put the cherry on top in high school is that he was related. He is, not was. He's related to a very well-known football player. Should I say the football player's name? Do you think he'll listen to this podcast? I don't think.
I don't think
Maybe.
he's. That's crazy though, because I dated someone in middle school that was related to Michael Vick, which isn't really a flex anymore, but before all the
Yeah.
shit went down, it was a little flex.
Yeah. So he was related to Julius Peppers.
Oh wow.
So, I mean, of course, I thought him attractive in high school. Everyone did. He was beautiful. He was handsome. And we were in the same math class. Like, I mean, if he needed like the answer to a question or something, I would give it to him. I wasn't one of those girls. I was like, do your own work. I was like, all right, don't trust it, but here's what I got. But we connected. After I graduated from college, we reconnected, and he was like, I always thought you were cute. I want to take you out on a date. And I'm like, okay. So I was excited about it. And he was like, can you come pick me up? And I'm like, what? Okay. After I got over that, I was like, okay, let's go. I'm excited. So we went to Outback Steakhouse, and the conversation was great. But when it was time to pay for the bill, he was like, we're splitting the check. And I looked at him and I was like, what? He was like, yeah, we're splitting the check. I'm like, you asked me out. And then he was like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, so why aren't you paying? He's like, and he was like, well, because you ate your own food. I'm like, but that's not a date. What are you talking about? And then he was like, well, can you pay for mine? And I'm like, bro, what? So
That is crazy.
I ended up paying and drove him back home and never talked to him ever again.
Can I tell you something crazy? This is why I say, like, I'm not crazy in the sense of, like, I'm showing up at your house in the middle of the night, but not my last relationship, definitely not. But the one before that, that's my ex. Like, I will say this, like, our first date, he took me to, he was a college athlete. He went to school out of town. I was living in Charlotte. So he came into town and he wanted to take me out, but he didn't have a car. Which I will say I gave him this because he technically went to school like elsewhere. So I picked him up. I did make him pay for the ticket for me, and I didn't want to go on a date with him by myself the first time, so I brought my best friend.
Not so you third wheeling him.
He did. Yeah, I was like, I don't know, I wasn't ready yet. I was like, we're gonna dip our toes into this. But he did pay for our tickets, but come to find out now, like now that I think about it, he was like the college football superstar in my town growing up. So he probably didn't even pay for the tickets to get in. They probably just let us in for free. And the only thing he did end up buying us was like snacks at the concession stand at a high school football game. So he didn't spend out that much money. But you know what I will say? I was that girl for so long because shortly after that, he academically got kicked out of school and moved back home and immediately started staying at my apartment all the time, had no job, had no money. So anything we did,
it was on
I
you.
paid for. Not that I had a lot of money. I was making $7.25 working at Panera Bread. I would go to my mom's house once a week and like steal groceries from her because I couldn't afford groceries because I was paying rent for the first time in my life. But yeah, no, it's crazy. And yeah, I know, I agree with you. And obviously I've come a long way from that way. And it's not saying that if, like I'm all for women being the breadwinner. My mom was always the breadwinner growing up. And a lot of my relationships, I was the breadwinner. But ladies, at least if he's not the breadwinner, there should be some kind of contribution. Like it should be fair. Like
Yes.
my ex, my most recent ex, when we first started dating, he worked part-time, but he was also a full-time student in school. But you best believe he was helping pay for groceries. He still helped
Hmm.
pay for dates and stuff like that. Like, yeah, maybe I had a little bit more expendable funds. And I mean, when you do really get in a relationship with someone and your expenses are together, you do start have to making the money work for the most,
Hmm.
for the both of you. But at the same time, it wasn't like I paid for everything and he didn't pay for anything. No, and if anything, he made more of a conscious effort to make sure that he was doing those kinds of things. Or there was even days when I would come home, I'm like notorious for not buying all the little things that I
Hmm.
need, that I know that I need, but like I just don't ever go and get
Like
them.
toilet paper or paper towels.
I
I forget.
vitamins. I remember that was the first time I was like, this was when we were pretty new in our relationship. We were living together, and this was like one thing that he did that made me be like, damn, you actually care about me. I came home from work one day and we had just moved. It was really expensive. We were kind of broke. And there was just like little things he saw that I need. Like I needed a light bulb for my Himalayan salt rock that he called my pet rock. I wasn't taking multivitamins, and like he was really big on health and wellness. He had bought me multivitamin. I mean, it was just, I couldn't tell you everything. It was just a slew of like random things. And no, it wasn't necessarily anything super expensive, but it was like, he had noticed throughout the weeks of all these little things I was putting off buying, and he made a conscious effort. And I remember it was the vitamins that really got me. Like I hadn't taken multivitamins since I graduated. And he was like, "Oh, I got you some like multivitamins." And I was like, damn, this person actually, like, he doesn't just care about me like because he's supposed to, but like he's actually thinking about like making sure I'm healthy and stuff like that. So it's like, girls, it's okay to pay for dates. It's okay to switch off. Like I remember
Because
we
if
did
he
Tuesday
wanted
date
to,
nights.
he would. If he
Yes.
wanted to, he would. He will
We
if
did,
he wants to.
yes. We would do Tuesday date nights and we'd always go to the movies and we would always switch off. Every other week one of us would pay. Like it's okay um to split the check sometimes. But no, in that situation, like I shouldn't have to pick you up. I shouldn't have to pay for our dinner. Like,
Hmm.
because I'm that way too. Like, that's why I'm like, I don't always like hit up people. Like, I always think about that too. Like, if I hit up a guy friend and I'm like, let's go get food, if I don't want to pay for his meal, I make sure I set that expectation. Like,
Yeah, I'm not paying for
it's
you.
friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, let's just go grab lunch. Like, this isn't a date. But like, if I were to hit up a guy and be like, hey, like, let's go, I want to take you out to dinner. Like, let's go out to dinner. Like, I would pay because I invited him. But vice versa, if a guy tells me, "Hey, I want to take you out to dinner," I mean,
You're
I'm always
taking me
gonna
out to
bring enough.
dinner.
Yeah, I'm always gonna bring enough money in case I have to pay for myself. But like, if you're inviting me out to dinner, a nice dinner, I'm assuming you're paying for my dinner.
Yeah, and it's bad that like as dating, like I've always had the expectation until I met Kev. Like if a guy asks me out to dinner, I'm always like, okay, I got to make sure I can at least pay for our dinner just in case. And it's so bad that we have to rely on ourselves when a man is supposed to do something like that. But
Yeah,
take us out to dinner. But no, I think that's beautiful because Kev does that same thing. Like the little things. Like even though I'm the breadwinner, we, I, I pay for like the mortgage and like the house stuff, like house insurance, the taxes, and like things like that. But he pays for all the utilities. He pays for majority of the groceries, and like we split the baby stuff, of course. But it's still he still puts in a lot of effort, and then he'll take over like if we're down and out. Like for example, he got fired a couple months into us moving in together, so of course I took over, which was no problem because he got another job, and then when I got laid off he took over, and it was, it's
yeah. I think as long as the
it's a
same.
partnership.
It's like, I mean, because the reality of it, you think about is like for example, if like you're dating some super rich guy that like he wants to live in a nice house because he has the means, but you can't afford to pay half that rent, like but also like, why are we going to live below our means if we can afford it? I think there's some level of equality, right? So it's like, yeah, the mortgage might be a little bit more expensive, but you have the higher pay. And who's not to say that those groceries and those utilities aren't taking just as much of the money he is making as yours? So I think that's the biggest thing, is just making sure that everyone is contributing as equally as possible. Maybe some person contributes a little bit more financially, but making sure, like, I remember that was a big thing with that was another thing, like with my most recent relationship, that I really loved, is that like when he was in school and working part-time, because he knew that I was working full-time and I was taking that load, I never had to clean the house. The house was always clean when I came home. He would cook, my dinner would be ready and made for us to eat together when I got off of work. And half the time my lunch was prepped and ready for me for the next day. You know what I mean? And it's like, those are the things where I think about my relationship before that. He didn't work for 2.5 years. He just sat around, smoked weed, and wanted to be a rapper. And I would come home and our house would be disgusting. And then he would get on me about not cleaning. And I'm like, I work, and I was working a lot of overtime then too, because I was the only person paying the bills. And I would be like, I go to work for like 12, 13 hours a day. I pay for everything in this house. But this is the crazy thing is, you think I ever said that to him?
You should have.
I should have. But the thing too for me was, I could afford that. So we weren't hurting for money. Like, we were doing well. But it was like, I didn't do that to hold that over your head. I did that because I loved you and I wanted to live comfortably. But at the same time, don't sit here and get on me about the house that you dirtied when I'm busting my ass so that we can live a good life. And so like, that was a big thing that I learned. And I was really glad that I didn't have that issue in my last relationship, because, and I tell my mom always thinks it's so crazy. When I tell her that my ex, she's like, you don't cook him dinner every night? And I was like, hell no. If anything,
hell no.
To be honest with you, he was just a better cook. Like, he really taught me how to cook. But I was like, he loved cooking. And I was like, if anything, he's really the person that cooks dinner. And it's not because I made him, like, he would do it. But like, I remember sometimes we get around a Friday, Saturday, and I'd be like, hey, you want me to cook dinner tonight? Because like, I knew he had done it so many times this week, like, let me help. And my mom thinks that's so crazy. Or like, when I would tell her, she would ask me if I ever have to ask him to clean or like put his laundry away. And I was like, no. And she's like, really? And I'm like, why would I? Again, that is a part of living and adulting. If he wasn't dating me and he lived alone, he would still have to do those things on his own. So why should I have to get on him to do that? And I get it, because again, my relationship before that, it was like that. I would have to like get on him. Most of the time he wouldn't do it, I would do it. But now that I've dated someone who, it's like, I never had to ask him to clean. I never had to ask him to cook dinner. I never had to ask him to put things away. And I will never go back. Like, I tell you right now, next person I date.
Here's the thing. Kev lived with his parents before him and I moved in together. And it was some growing pains when we first moved in, because he didn't have his parents to do everything. He didn't know how to operate a household. So it was, taking on that challenge. But I got him well changed. I got him well trained now. Now, if I start to clean, he knows he better start picking up something, or I'm yelling.
Yeah.
I'm not about to be the only one cleaning. But no, and also too, like, we have to take in consideration like where the person is in their life and where we're at too, and meet in the middle. Like, because Kev didn't really go out much. He lived at home with his parents. I taught him a lot about life, like being on his own. So, I mean, do what you will, but also some people just need to be taught how to be adults.
For sure, I agree with that, because I think that was a big thing that my most recent ex taught me too. Was like, because I had been in a relationship prior to him that it was like we did everything together. Like, if I was going out, he was going out, and stuff like that. Where like I remember the first time we were supposed to go somewhere together, and he just like woke up and he didn't want to go. And for a second, like, I was so shocked, because I was like, well, we told all our friends that were going, and he was like, babe, go, like, still go, have fun. Like, I'm just not feeling it. Like, I have this shit that I need to do. And I was like, it really made me realize, I agree with that. Like, I think there was a lot of things not that I didn't know how to necessarily be an adult because I had been on my own for a while, but there was a lot of things I had to learn because I grew up extremely sheltered. So yeah, I 100% think that. And I think you're right. It's definitely meeting in the middle. Because like, for example, my ex was very neat and clean, the neatest person, that definitely the neatest guy I've ever met or been around, neatest person I've ever been around. And like, for example, like I'm not dirty. Like I clean up, like keep my bathroom clean. I wash dishes and stuff, but like my closet's always a disaster. And so like, we had those moments of meeting in the middle where it's like, listen, like I keep everything else clean, but every once in a while the closet's going to be a wreck. But I think it's just making sure that wherever your guys' middle is, you can both live like that. Because like I think about my ex and like prior to him, and I'm like, there's no way. Like if I met someone who was that dirty ever again, like no, it's just not going to work, because there's a certain level of like mess I can live in. I can live in messy, like your clothes might be on the ground throughout the week, or like, but like dirty, no, I can't do dirty.
No, I can't do dirty either.
No.
But definitely this relationship topic, we should expand more on it in later episodes. But I think it's so funny. We started off our intro, didn't even make it to our outline.
Yeah, we planned to talk about something totally different, but we got 30 minutes in and we're just having such a good conversation. I was like, let's just roll with it.
Yes. But so we'll definitely table our the outline for this show for the next show. But I hope you guys really enjoyed this free-flowing conversation when it came to relationships, and I hope you guys picked up some jewels about our experiences and able to apply it positively in your own personal lives. And I would love to hear, the audience's feedback when it comes to relationships. 'Cause I feel like there's just so much to relationships.
For sure, guys. We actually have visual on YouTube, so definitely drop comments below and let us know. We can all learn from each other.
Yes.
You guys, yeah.
Yes. So we drop Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, you'll be able to find us on Instagram and TikTok. Let's Be Real Podcast _RJ.
Yeah. But thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Let's be real.
Let's get into it. Let's have some fun.